most dominant mid laner that we have in the league, maybe even the world. Whereas Creme has always been that guy trying to challenge him for that title, right? The younger player on top esports has never been able to really get that upper edge overnight in a very important series, in potentially later stages of the postseason, right? And so this is a good opportunity for Creme. This split feels like this is the best split he's played in quite some time, perhaps ever, in his tenure on top esports. Wasn't able to do too much there in that game number 1, but still a lot of series left to be played as the mid lane pool continues to be pinched with that Ahri ban. So BLG at least feeling a little bit of respect towards the enemy mid laner.
Well, there's a decent amount of series to be played for the rest of the split, but not so much in the regular season. I think top esports have had a very tumultuous journey to be in the top 3, and a win here against BLG I think would reaffirm their placement in that category. So want to see Creme get something for himself that he is more comfortable on here for game number 2, Grapes. And already we see top esports locking down the Vi, so going to be just looking for that point and click engage to start up a fight. But I like BLG's response. Ezreal can arcane shift backwards, Karma can provide the shields. There's a lot of peel and a bit of a double-edged sword kind of coming up here for the Vi, where if you ult in, you have a chance of going way too far and your team not being able to join up with you. So I think TES, maybe something like an Ambessa would be really valuable here to just give you that follow-up so that Vi isn't alone on those engages.
Well, might be able to just provide artillery from afar with an equalizer from a Rumble, which is going to get locked in instead. Perhaps finishing the top side makes sense here for top esports. You could go something like an Annie that has good lockdown alongside the Vi. Aurora with a little bit of extra mobility and backline access. Also an opportunity here for Creme to be a little bit more flashy in the mid lane.
With the Vi too, it also provides just a lot of single target burst as well. So if TES can make use of this combo, once Vi hits level 6, I think that if these guys can roam together to just try and assassinate Shun in his jungle or look for side lane plays, you can really derive a lot of value from this mid jungle to have that high aggressive style that TES have kind of been known for with mid laners like Creme and Tian joining the roster in split number 2. That has been their bread and butter when they're able to actually succeed. And then BLG here going to lock in the Pantheon. So I think acknowledging how rampant this mid-jungle duo of TES can run if they get ahead. And I think having a Grand Starfall to kind of police that aggression, make it less potent in the mid-game is really effective. I do think BLG have set themselves up pretty nicely for success at being able to scale and cover their bases and react to what a lot of TES's game plans are, but they don't have a lot of proactive play here. I think if we see something from the solo laners, it's going to have to be set up for Pantheon, something that can snowball, something that can get aggressive and play to the BLG style that we know.
So we head into the second phase here. A little bit of a disparity in terms of the picks. BLG have their share of bot laners that they can take away. I think Ashe and Lucian, certainly two of the strongest ones that we currently have in the meta, alongside their support counterparts in the Seraphine and Milio, respectively. Top esports opting for some mid lane bans towards Knight. You could also throw, that TF or the Galio actually into the Rumble up to the top lane for Bin. So getting both, kind of killing two birds with one stone there in the solo lanes. As we take a look at what they want to select here, they're going to have to probably just lock in mid here to respond to the Aurora.
They could do like a Galio if they wanted to. A lot of the traditional counters to Aurora have been banned, but that one is still open and available. Would also pair nicely with the Grand Starfall. We said top esports might be the ones to pick up the Ambessa, but instead it is actually going to be Bin for BLG. So just giving you a source of engage that you can play for, a fight starter up on the top side. And TES, it looks like, say, hey, we've got plenty of aggression on the top side. Let's get the Bard roaming, and let's have JackeyLove play on weak side duty. So I feel like maybe not a redemption game for the TES ADC, as he did struggle a lot in that first match, Grapes.
Our angles for this Jhin to be very valuable, though, as we get later into this game. Not a full tank getting locked in, so still, things like that lethality build can really become effective as it's Knight locking in the Ahri to round out the Bilibili composition. They really like the team fight. I think top esports is going to be a little bit more scrappy here in this early game. It's going to be up to Zhuo here, Quax, to roam around the map, impact these solo laners, and make sure that they get ahead. There's
a lot of defensiveness on the BLG lanes, though. I mean, you've got a point-and-click stun, on 2 members. You've got a root. You've got a bunch of mobility on these champions as well. So I think that BLG are going to have to play maybe a bit more of a defensive game. I think that both of these compositions are going to kind of just bide their time until they hit level 6. But once they get access to those ultimates, I think then we'll start to see a lot more blood be shed here in Game 2.
Top Esports need that blood to be shed if they want to have a chance to bounce back in this series. It was a really dominant BLG win in game number 1.
Right.
They are 1 Nexus away from clinching that top spot in Group Ascend and guaranteeing themselves both a bye and a free week off here in the Split 3 postseason, the LPL Grand Finals, as they call it, as we get closer to the end of 2026. Bilibili Gaming looking like their old selves, and they've got their old roster with them, Bin at the helm, whereas Top Esports still looking to establish themselves here and make themselves contenders for that top 2 spot in Group Ascend. On to the Rift for game number 2 between BLG and TES.
全军出击！
爆炸式梦龙神器！
Jayo's loud here in Tian as we get ready for game number 2. Both junglers starting on their bottom sides. Potentially some impact at the top lane. Got very explosive last time around.
It did, and like we talked about, both of these picks really wanting to hit that level 6 marker, which is why I'm a little bit surprised Vi didn't opt to maybe take E and start with the Raptors. We saw Pantheon shouldn't do something there just so that he could return to that bot side without having to take a reset. Really just valuing the experience of an extended clear. So maybe we'll see some action come through from Tian, as he did not start a non-buff camp, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it does mean that he'll be towards the top side just a little bit faster, as Shun will likely take this reset for the longsword. Gives him a little bit of extra combat power.
Yeah.
It also means he will be slightly decelerated on the completion of his first clear. It's BLG's bot lane that has prio early with the Ezreal Karma. This is what this 2v2 is supposed to do. Whereas Top Esports, we try to play things a little bit safer and then allow for Zhuo to get out onto these roams sooner rather than later.
And it's really difficult for JackeyLove to walk up to some of these minions early on. You don't have a lot of combat power with the Jhin and the Bard. I think it's pretty unique here that Zhuo actually opted for the Electrocute. I think they understand that they don't have a bunch of lethality in the 2v2, so trying to use that Keystone to maybe make up for it, be a little bit more deadly as a confluence in lane. Still though, you get outranged, you can get poked out as this Jhin, so Viper and On just going to be farming up these waves, and JackeyLove, even if he tries to step up, you can see taking a lot of punish for even just trying to do that.
Yeah, the Doran's Helm giving him a little bit of extra defensive stats, but still going to be chunked down about 200 HP before heading back to base and losing a full wave. Interestingly, we saw Shin not go for the reset. He ran straight from his Crubs to his topside jungle, which means that Tian is still going to be able to get to the Scuttle Crab first. Both junglers
use the empowered
no
Q.
smite available for the Vi, so it will be BLG trying to assert their dominance and go for the fight, not the flip. Stun lands onto Creme as the Aurora is already out of mana, and that means that Bilibili will be able to control this topside river.
All right, I was a little bit worried there after Shun used his empowered spear shot to take out that blue buff. Didn't give him as much combat power for the Pantheon, but he had Knight ready to move. Bin did move, so it will be the Crab secured for the Pantheon. And like we said, using that reset on the Raptors to have an extended clear, get closer and closer to level 6. And maybe, though, Tian, with the extra bit of tempo that he has now taking his reset, could try and look for something on the map, but it just feels so difficult to impact the lane without that point-and-click ultimate as Vi, because there's so much safety for a lot of these BLG lanes.
Yeah, I think until you hit level 6 here, Tian, going to be difficult to try to make much of an impact anywhere across the map, so just going to try to continue to farm things up. Shun still hasn't gone back to base, by the way. Have just continued to clear out. I think after this, yeah, not really much else to go for unless you're looking for a gank mid. JackeyLove places that ward down, and that will be enough here for Shun to finally be able to utilize some of the gold that he ended up collecting.
It's like what Dory says, just keep farming, right? That's what the junglers are doing, but that's not what Zhuo is doing. Roam up for the bar, does chunk out Knight to about half HP.
Yep.
Creme is very close to level 6, so once he has that, I think the burst potential from this Aurora goes significantly up, and that just means Knight is going to have to be extra careful walking up to any of these incoming waves. It looks like he'll actually take a or a reset instead, so he will miss some minions, but will at the very least keep his life.
Yeah, that's a great roam from Zhuo. Gets about 60% of Knight's health immediately after he TPs back to lane, which sticks him into a tough spot, especially, as you mentioned, with Creme about to unlock that ultimate ability. So, going to lose out on this wave, give a slight advantage to his mid laner without losing as much down bottom. Sure, JackeyLove going to fall behind a little bit in CS, but he was already going to fall behind, regardless of if Zhuo was there or not.
And we can see both junglers just finish their second full clear, and now it's a race toward the second crab. Right, because this is the one that gives you level 6. You can even see that Zhuo is leaving the base with his jungler. So they really want to put importance on this crab being secured on. Might also be roaming, but he will be significantly later as Knight.
Yeah, Knight steps up, has to flash away after the Between Worlds comes out. Gonna only be a 2v3 because Zhuo is in the area. Tibbers goes down, but it might be a little bit too late. Shun, at less than 100 HP, will get taken down by Creme, who flashes in for first blood.
Creme with the max range Q with the flash manages to secure the kill, and top esports strike first in the game. Tian is going to get access to the topside river as well, so level 6 will be unlocked for the Vi, and he will be the jungler able to make his mark on the map faster.
Great play by TES. It was started from the first reset, allowing for Zhuo to join his team, create that numbers advantage, and now Creme is ahead in gold. Tian has that level 6 first, and top esports off to a much better start here in game number 2.
Shun's bot side, though, is respawning, so I think Grand Starfall will be accessed regardless, and that will mean global pressure here for BLG, but the gold going into Creme going to be a really big deal when we consider that Knight using his flash means that he is susceptible to getting bursted down. This also means that Zhuo, as we saw earlier, can make a visit toward mid lane and just punish that Annie even further. If you can't move your Annie around, that just removes another facet of crowd control BLG really value in the early to mid stages, and maybe can give TES the opening to try and look for this neutral objective. Dragon has been up for a couple of minutes, but hasn't been touched, so I wonder if that might give them the green light, just limiting where this Annie can move.
Top esports definitely been more focused on controlling the top side of the map. Wondering with Tian still having his topside camps up and the grub's about to spawn, if they'd be willing to give up this first dragon, or maybe they just want to take it. You can see Tian now running around the bottom side river, gonna cross through mid lane here to give Creme a little bit of extra security before then heading over to his third spawn of the round.
I think that top esports don't have a lot of value they would get from going for the grubs, but would be a decent takeaway given that BLG are a very gold-hungry team. And once you get these champions to the late game, they can be really, really lethal. Shun waiting in the wings here to maybe get onto Creme, but Tibbers is zoning him away.
Yeah, so it looks like Knight's just using this for wave control, which is an interesting use case of the ultimate. Creme trying to jump forward, but now without that cooldown, could be chased down by Shun. It is Tian who starts up the Void Grubs in the process, with the BLG jungler instead heading down bottom lane to try to claim the dragon as a trade.
All right, so Tian going to, like you said, pick up grubs. JackeyLove and Zhuo forced to reset should just give the green light for Shun to start this one up. And Tian is actually, instead of maybe looking for a play on topside, he's crossing over the river. TES want to try and contest this. Creme is also taking a reset, but he does have teleport. So top, I think, do want to fight this. Yeah, they're just going. The Drake reset, and Shun is alone with no flash. The Ezreal's in base,
and Shun is stuck in the Dragon Pit. This is not a good situation right now for Bilibili Gaming. They're going to try to fight their way out of this. Grand Starfall is channeled, but it gets countered by the cease and desist, and 4 members in for top esports will take the Pantheon down. Creme makes it 2-0 here for top esports. Says thanks to the leash on his way out.
I mean, it wasn't really a leash. The Drake completely reset. So, Shun getting caught out there with no flash, stuck in the pit. Grand Starfall doesn't actually go on cooldown. He charged it but didn't complete it, so he'll still have the ability to influence these lanes. Will just be behind gold as Viper and On looking for an aggressive trade after the dragon is taken. Shun going down, doesn't lose his ultimate, so he can still have influence on the map, but it just feels like TES are playing so much more efficiently in this early game.
One of those situations where Viper was on a reset, he was able to pick up a big buy, now has the Sage and the Sheen in his inventory, and you saw the damage he was able to do down there. So in that situation, Shun should just peel away from the dragon, knowing that he does not have his AD carry available.
About to have
Perhaps a miscommunication there for BLG. No miscommunication between the solo laners though, as it feels like Bin and Knight have not missed a beat by their each other's sides. Bin gets the kill after the failed flash, and BLG finally on the board.
Ooh, that failed flash is just salt in the wound for Zuian, as he's gonna miss potentially this entire wave here as the death timers are starting to get pretty high up. We can see Tian is in the area, does not have ult though, so I don't think looking for a potential gank in top lane is really on the cards, and BLG will just walk away with a lump sum of gold given over to their returning top laner.
So Bin and Zuian were trading evenly in the 1v1, but the first move towards that top side ends up being in Bin's favor. He now goes up to 1-0. You can see the early Hex Drinker just to survive a little bit of that poke. Maybe even rushing the Maw. Nope, looks like the Eclipse will be that first item. With the pickaxe also purchased by the Mbessa. Has Bin now going to have a little bit more agency in the 1v1.
Yeah, Bin just picking up the mod. Deal with the 3 champions that, or I guess I could say 4, as Real throws out abilities. So having the magic resist is really valuable. The shield can have a ton of uses, especially later on in the game. Once I think Bin is looked at to be one of the main initiators for this fight, the survivability of Mbessa is really valuable, really important, just making sure TES can't counterpunch in these future fights. See Shun looking for a play in top lane, was maybe debating Grand Star falling up there. And now, though, maybe going to try and look onto Creme, as I feel like this Pantheon, on top of getting caught out twice, just hasn't been able to have the same impact on the map that Tian has.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at the scoreline. Kind of tells the story, as well as just what each jungler has been able to do. Been very much a farm-oriented style for both junglers in this game. As I say that, Tian going to look at make an impact in the bottom side. Viper's on the wrong side of the map and was it without any mana, and so he will go down. Question is, can he get one back onto JackeyLove? He tries with the flash forward, but it is still going to be the kill regardless. Play on the top side in response. Shin goes forward with the Grand Star fallen. On's there as well. Zuian overheated, still going to get taken down by the Comet Spear. So 1-for-1 on opposite sides of the map. Creme going for a trade on tonight. Not going to be able to finish off the Annie, but Tian now going to take the Annie Raptors and maybe look for a dive.
But difference is, one team has grubs, the other one doesn't. Top Esports are going to be able to push in that wave. Curiously enough, aren't going to be hitting the tower at all. We'll just be saying, hey, let's go for a reset. We've got a clean timer to do so. And I am debating that play a little bit. JackeyLove is going to be able to pick up the Zhonya, so maybe I'm debating it a little bit less.
So 2 minutes until this Rift Herald spawns, about a minute until that second dragon. Top Esports already have that 1-0 Drake lead, and a slight gold advantage primarily in the mid lane. Creme, big beneficiary of some of the early plays that Tian has made. Will be very powerful for these next couple of minutes. You can see Knight not even having that rocket belt available yet. That'll be a big difference maker if a fight does end up breaking out.
Opted for the Swift March, just valuing the movement a lot in this game. Tian being aggressed onto by Shun, but his Vault Breaker comes off of cooldown quicker than the Pantheon stun, so he'll just be able to get over that wall. As that's just disrespectful, Shun. And the emo, come on.
Gotta feel, you know, for all of the pain that he's gone through in this game, gotta feel good about at least getting that one. Tian still has that level advantage, but gotta have a little bit of fun. Shun has always got a smile on his face. I mean, I was just been watching Champ Select, and bro was just grinning the entire time as he had the Pantheon get locked in for him.
Hey man, I'd be grinning the entire time if Knight was my mid laner too.
True. Knight's a little bit better than some of your solo queue teammates, I presume.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. He definitely just sometimes it's just like a slight amount. Because I do think that, you know, I get some smurfs in my solo queue
Yeah,
teammates.
NA Masters, just as good as the LPL. You heard it here first.
Yup.
Quax.
There you go.
He's basically
As, Top have started up his dragon and now have found on.
Oh, a little awkward here for Tian. I believe the ultimate's still available. Dashes over the wall, picks up the Chemtech Drake. So should just be able to get out there. Slight dysenergy, I think, with the Tempered Fate. I don't think Ro was expecting Tian to jump over the wall.
Threw out the Tempered Fate, but then mistimed the Q, so the stun didn't land once he went out of being golden. Maybe wouldn't have been the difference maker between killing On and letting him live because he had that flash to get over the wall regardless, but just a bit of a mistime there from the TES support. And seems like Top are not done with trying to pressure this bot lane. Knight is walking up maybe a little too far. You can see that Vi. Tian still has ultimate, by the way, so I feel like Knight has to respect this. And with Grubs, this will just be more gold given over to the mid-jungle duo of TES with the driving engine of this comp as we put it in draft Grapes.
It feels like Tibbers has been used very defensively by Knight in a lot of these situations.
Tibbers is a spectator this game.
He's been put on weak side a lot, and this is a good statement here for Creme. We were talking about in the draft here, Quax, about this player and how he never is fully able to get over the hump that is Knight. Typically, a lot of the other mid laners that Creme has faced off against, he's able to get the better of, especially this split, but Knight always kind of that golden goose that he still needs to be able to conquer. This is a good game for him to prove it. He's up 2,000 gold, but we've seen Knight and we've seen BLG come back from deficits like this before.
And it's what we talked about in the pre-show, right, Grapes? Where we were saying, give Creme something with burst. Give Creme a melee champion. This guy has a specialty in a draft, and very much so is proficient on those types of champions. So I think that Aurora fitting into that archetype, you can see the results that are being netted. He's performing really well, almost 2K up overnight, and now Bin maybe being looked onto. We'll spot out Tian in the tri-bush, but this wave is pushing. Zuian's going to overheat in order to get it under the turret, so they might just not care that Bin knows. They're just going to maybe look to 3-man dive him.
Has the Vault Breaker charging. The wave crashes in. Knockup does connect. Bin throws out the public execution
Good
for
ult.
a bit of a buffer. Tempered Fate comes out from Zhuo just to cancel that tower from going down. It's going to be the kill over to the Ambessa. And another one potentially donated, but Knight's able to get the kill with the Tibbers. But there's 5 members of Top Esports surrounding the top side of the map as their name suggests. Both solo laners go down on Bilibili's side as TES going to be able to claim both and the top lane tier 1.
They'll be able to do that, but look at BLG in the mid lane. Herald dropped. They don't need the grub buff in order to take a turret for themselves, so it'll be a trade of those towers.
Oh, I see, not the whole tower.
Teleport. Yeah, they're actually stalling out on taking it. JackeyLove's probably going to give his life for this, so BLG honestly winning out in this fight, Grapes.
Not entirely sure why they waited so long for BLG to respond. They're going to give a kill over, I believe it was to Viper. And that is a bit of an odd situation for Top Esports.
Oh, yeah.
They could have probably claimed that first tower, but they wanted to get a second on the bottom side and perhaps plates for a third. That was the move as Creme is able to get a little bit more gold, and now from top side to bot, they'll look for Knight once again and take him down for the second time this game. Creme gets the credit as he goes on a killing spree, but now Tian's on the wrong side of the map, fighting a 1v2 between the bot laners that he does not win. Viper shifts forward to pick up another kill, as it will be still Top Esports continuing their side lane pressure. Another tier 1 tower is taken down. Looks like TS trying to sacrifice kills for just opening up the map a little bit more.
I was thinking Zuian might be able to use the equalizer to try and snipe the Pantheon out of the sky, but Shun still had that flash, probably would have lived regardless. Top Esports in these last couple of minutes have really been going for just a full court press here. They've been putting pressure on top side for a dive, bot side for a dive, threatening the mid lane tower. They have been forcing BLG to react to their proactive plays. And BLG have been doing a pretty decent job, but I like to see this aggression come through from TES being the ones to dictate movement around the map is going to be so important, especially now with Drake being up in about 30 seconds. You managed to take down both the tier 1 outer in bot and mid, so they get control of this bot side river and should be poised to be the ones in control of this dragon.
So it seems like an active trade deal was made by Top Esports there. They give up JackeyLove's life for the top lane tower. They give up Tian's life basically for the mid lane tower. And in return, they get a lot of extra space to play with on the Rift, with Vi, with Aurora, and with Bard. These are 3 champions that are going to be able to roam around as a trio and have big impacts wherever they go. Dragon spawning and should be started up here by Top Esports. Knight is very far away, and so will not be a 5v5 at least for a bit. As the Dragon is going to get bursted down. This is Soul Point given over to TES, and now Bin can be the target as he's caught out trying to look for a flank on a vision. Cease and Desist comes forward, and the Mbessa gets killed before the public execution even connects. Little dissynergy there with the Equalizer and Tempered Fate, but Shun going to still be the next target as Zuian gets taken down by Viper, so 1-for-1 overall. Health bar still on Bilibili's side, with Zhuo and Creme ticking just a little bit lower than they probably would have liked. Grand Starfall gets channeled. It looks like BLG gonna just try to use that to escape. Shun maybe was looking for an aggressive play, but instead going to just back out with the 1-for-1.
And On actually had to use his flash at the end there as well, so they get a summoner spell from the Karma to end off this play. And you're talking about trade deals here. I feel like this might be a trade deal that BLG weren't too happy to have hit their desk, as now TES have Soul Point. They got a kill, and all BLG got was a kill. So business low-key gaming over here is really not doing good for business, it seems, so far.
Business loss gaming?
Business loss gaming. Yeah, I was like workshopping it in my head as they were maybe team fighting, maybe not team fighting. The B stood for business, but beyond that, I wasn't like super sure where we were going. So I like business loss gaming.
It was a good attempt. We'll VOD review it going into the next game. The acronyms are very important here. Let's do a little scrapping around the top side of the map. Shun dashes forward. There's the public execution. Creme just gets one shot by BLG, stepping a little bit too far forward. Zuian on the next target. And Top Esports, oh no! Punished in the enemy jungle. They lose all 3 of their top side members, with only JackeyLove and Zhuo here to try to defend the Baron that has spawned and should go down to BLG.
And they are just BGG at this point. They are business gain gaming here as they get picks onto 3. Baron is going to follow, and suddenly the lead that Top Esports painstakingly built up for themselves gets blown away in an instant, Grapes.
What just happened there? Top Esports felt a little bit too confident around this blue buff.
They did. Creme W'd forward. Didn't land a lot of the damage onto Shun, so I was thinking, okay, maybe he has to, okay, maybe I need to land damage on this Pantheon, actually. And then he just gets locked up. He used his W, he used his rocket belt. That was all the mobility that he could realistically use in that scenario, and he used both of them to go forward. So BLG punished that. They managed to get the kill, and now all 5 members are sporting purple. Zuian has to Tempered Fate, or Magical Journey, wrong ability, over the wall, and BLG are the ones on a full court press now.
For as good of a game it's been for Creme, that was a very bad play that has cost his team a massive advantage. BLG possibly now 3,000 and counting as they're pushing down the bottom lane to take down this tier 2 turret. Baron buff will expire right as this next dragon spawns. It makes it very difficult for Top Esports to see a soul in their future.
That might actually legitimately be the game. I mean, BLG, we've seen it before. When they get a lead, they are so good at being able to hold on to it. And that was the case in split number 2. You've got the split number 2 5-stack back in action here. So you've got to believe clawing your way into the driver's seat again as Top Esports is going to be a difficult task. But they're looking to try and do it. Utilize the fact that the Hex Gates force you to maybe overstep.
All right. Nice play. Finding a pick onto Shun. The overload off the Hex Gate will try to stymie this Baron push for now. There's still a wave bot lane that Zuian is going to try to collect, but Top Esports taking a very aggressive path through the mid lane. Joe immediately has to flash
Teleport's
away and
coming
use the
through.
Mikhails, but the season assist goes forward and finds Viper. Teleport comes in,
Oh,
but the
nice!
front line is deleted by Tibbers and Bin. It's Bilibili Gaming now with the numbers advantage. Magical Journey out, but Bin's going to try to follow them right through the portal. Gets stunned up by the Cosmic Binding. Not going to get taken down just yet, as here comes Bin. Flashes over with a massive shield and will not die before two of his counterparts fall. Curtain call comes up, but it will be curtains for top esports in this fight. Only JackeyLove remains as he throws out the deadly flourish before Knight flashes over to finish the ace.
Knight looking for the full 5-man ace here as TES wither and wilt away. BLG with a 5,000 gold lead in the blink of an eye just a couple of team fights later. And they're looking to try and take this 2-0 and lock themselves first place in split number 3, Graves. As we get a replay, they're down a member, but look at this damage that comes through from Knight. The Tibbers nukes them, and then they burn down the front line, like you said. And I mean, we said that Knight was using Tibbers a lot defensively in this game. That's because he was probably saying to himself, if I use it offensively, the game is going to be too easy. The first time he actually uses Tibbers in like a team fight in an offensive capacity, it might just be the 5v5 that ended the game and put BLG in first place.
You can see JackeyLove trying to get cheeky, sniping one of those players with a deadly flourish, but Knight saw through it and was able to get that final kill. Dragon taken by BLG while we were in the replay, so no soul available for top esports for at least another 4 minutes, and next time they fight a Drake Quax, it'll be in a significantly worse position than they were about 5 minutes ago.
It will be. I think top esports have to recognize that their ability to play out 5v5s kind of been diminished here, but they still have a lot of single target bursts. You've still got the Vi, you've still got the deadly flourish to follow up, you've still got Creme with his burst damage, but it's so difficult to find a member of BLG isolated. As you can see, they're all grouped up. They haven't been leaving each other's side for the past few minutes. So TES, it kind of feels like they're hoping for a positioning mistake.
It was a 2-0 for top esports. Last time around might be a 2-0 for
my
BLG.
Lord.
Another big Tibbers gets sent in, draws the portal away. Shun going to try to chase down Tian with the help of Bin, but the Guardian Angel is the only thing gets popped. Tian will respawn, dashes forward, but Bin dashes away. Viper shifts over the wall and takes the enemy jungler down. Shun with the Grand Starfall takes Ro as well. And now Creme has to run for the hills once again. It's 2 more kills for Bilibili Gaming. And they'll push down mid 5 strong to crack open the base of top esports.
Should at the very least be an inhibitor. Top esports off of another big stun from Knight. Try and turn the tables, but they don't have the numbers. They don't have the damage. Tibbers not only acts as damage, but also a zoning tool. BLG are just going to try and end here, it looks like, Graves.
Big chunk onto Shun. Does not have that GA. First Nexus Tower down. And it looks like that is all that BLG want to get off of that one. They have Baron up in 45. Take things a little bit slower and make sure that they end this game. Pick up that 2-0 win.
Able to pop off and deliver them a game 1 victory. Game number 2, though, it feels like it has been a BLG team effort as now Knight is here, followed by Bin.
No GA onto Tian anymore. Mikhails gets him away from the public execution, and the Vi is still going to survive, and Bin is stuck in a 1v4 now. A nice play in response. Bin trying to outplay, finds the kill on to the top esports jungler. It feels like Quax Tian didn't need to do all that.
I mean, Knight, honestly, I was a little concerned at the start because he took the Hexgate over, you know, preserved that KDA, just kind of abandoned his top laner in a fight he initially started. But I was mistaken. It was because he knew Bin had the 1-for-1, regardless of how many men top esports sent to try and stop him. As now, BLG will send all of their surviving members onto this Baron. Tian is down, and there's no jungler for top esports.
Yeah, so 4v4, but the smite belongs to Shun and nobody else, as it will just be the Baron Nashor being taken. So Tian dying there ends up being very impactful for top esports as BLG pick up their second Baron of the game.
Might be looking for more Zuian.
Oh yeah, there's just a huge stun and a big one-shot of the Rumble once again. And so Top Esports just not going to be able to have their 5-man squad up anymore. This Rumble goes down for the 6th time this game. It's been a tough game for Zuian.
I really liked the synchronized back there from Karma, Pantheon, and Annie, especially when they've got the Baron buff on. They're like all blue and purple. Just a little bit of color palette synergy coming through from BLG. It's almost as good as their team fight synergy.
I think they try to match skins. I know we sometimes try to do that when we're in like Flex Q and stuff like that.
Yeah. You know, there's no harm in trying to match skins, especially when I'm pretty sure they have all of the skins unlocked. You might as well. Yeah.
All in sync right now for Bilibili, as they're one team fight away from claiming the #1 seed in Group Ascend. Despite all the roster turmoil, all the drama, all the question marks here in Split 3, one thing has remained sure, and that is that Bilibili will always be a top team in the LPL when they have Knight, they have Shun, they have some of the best players the league has to offer. They're pushing down the bottom lane to crack open their second inhibitor, as Tian is on a magical journey of his own to look for some sort of miracle flank to save the game.
You say all of that, Grapes, but Knight missed the most recent cannon. -1.
Oh, he's trying to take Soul?
All right, this is what they're doing. They're looking to try and sneak away the Soul win condition.
This is nice.
This is interesting.
As long as the game doesn't end here, it could be a Soul for end trade, but it looks like BLG don't know that this is happening until it is far too late.
Now.
The Dragon gets secured. That is Soul for Top Esports, so the start of a comeback potentially
Knight is teleporting.
But it might come at the cost of Tian's life. He's going to try to channel his reset. Teleport came in from Knight to try to chase him down. I think the Vi gets away. He's on vision.
He's not
Knight. Oh, he gets canceled at the last minute. That is so unfortunate. Tian just didn't back in the bush. And now he's going to be very, very dead. He gets taken down by Knight. He's trying to accelerate the death timer to make sure he's back up sooner rather than later. Still the Soul going over, but again, it feels like an unforced error by the TES jungler.
It's a new mod for Where is Waldo. It's called Where is Tian, and it looks like Knight is really good at that game. He will manage to find the jungler for TES, and 4v5 now, 30 seconds on the death timer. I feel like regardless of having the Hextech Soul, BLG with just the numbers advantage alone should be able to try and blitz their way toward the base, but the inhib is respawning, so they gotta go quick.
Grand Starfall comes in. Shun immediately for the JackeyLove, but he cleanses away from the stun. Tempered Fate stalls out the second Nexus turret from going down, but the Nexus should soon be exposed. Bin goes forward with the public execution, and the Nexus is now going to be the target. Bin jumping in onto Creme to chase the main damage of Top Esports out of the picture. Bin gets the kill. The Nexus goes down, and Soul be damned. BLG going to claim the #1 seed in Group Ascend.
In their rightful spot here for the rankings of the LPL Grapes. BLG were poised as and thought of as the #1 team in the LPL, but like you said, through the drama, the top lane turmoil, all of the obstacles that they have had to overcome in split #3, and the fact that Top Esports and AL have had flashes of brilliance themselves here in the same exact split, questions were raising on whether or not they would be able to maintain that level of dominance. Well, it seems like they have been able to. We talked about that at the end of game #1. It seems like at the end of game #2, my answer of if they can demolish the rest of the competition, that has not changed.
And a great game from Bin on the Mbessa. I think his best game since returning to the starting lineup for Bilibili Gaming. Very much a good sign for the rest of the season, the rest of the playoffs, and potentially the rest of the calendar year if BLG want to make it back to another international title. You might remember, of course, their international success earlier in the year, but last Worlds, they crashed and burned a little bit, missing the quarterfinals entirely, so still probably on the minds of a lot of these players to try to get back to that stage in good hands.
For sure. And I think BLG, I mean, we talk about their dominance this year and the turmoil they've had to struggle with last year and in split #3 here, Grapes, but it has always been more about the international success for this team, right? Domestic for BLG is thinking too small. Getting another championship win, getting another first place finish, getting another playoffs championship, and being able to call themselves the winners of a particular split is not enough for this team, I think. They are looking for revenge against the LCK at the international level. So I think when we talk about, is the BLG back? Is BLG able to contend with the best? The question has to become not, can they beat top esports? Can they beat AL? It has to become, can they beat the best in the other regions? Can they be the best team in the world?
Well, they have at least done step one, which is to claim the #1 seed in the group. As we take a look at our standings, Bilibili Gaming unable to get removed from that top spot now with 11 wins in the group. They still got another matchup against Anyone's Legend at the end of our regular season on Sunday, but that Quax is only going to be for AL and their potential to try and stay up in that second position. If AL end up winning that one, they will be the second seed. If they lose and TES win tomorrow against JDG, it'll be Top Esports that get that free bye.
So TES, AL, WE, and JDG are all teams that I will be keeping my eyes glued to in the coming days, Grapes, just because it is always really fun to see who places where, right? And what the journey is going to be like once we get to those best of fives. One team, though, that I really want to talk about, I'm very interested in where WE actually ends up placing. Obviously, before this, they lost their series to Anyone's Legend, but this has just been such a back and forth polarizing team. Or they won, right, against Anyone's Legend. So this has just been such a, back and forth polarizing team that has had so many mixed results. I legitimately wonder where they will end up once the dust settles.
Well, that win over AL basically removes any possibility of them getting bumped down to, say, the #6 spot where LGD currently resides. Will be in that 4-5 matchup against JDG or potentially LGD if a lot of things go LGD's way, which includes having EDG beat JDG at the end of the season, which I don't think a lot of us are expecting, but Edward Gaming also have been on a bit of a run of their own. Here is our schedule for the last 2 days of the regular season in LPL. We have our one Nirvana matchup remaining, and it's the big one. It's NIP against Invictus Gaming. Still anybody's game for that #1 seed in Group Nirvana, which means that you will get the matchup against Edward Gaming versus either one of Thunder Talk and LGD, who play in our first matchup on Sunday.
A lot of exciting series, but I think Knights Rivals being the first event that we get to before the playoffs, obviously, Grapes, just means that there's a lot riding on this NIP versus IG series, not only in terms of getting the placements on who you're going to be up against, but also the teams that they're going to be facing off against kind of seem to be having an interesting end of split journey. EDG managing to win their first series, and then on top of that, it seems like Thunder Talk are really starting to slump as a roster as well. So that'll be a fun discussion to have once Knights Rivals comes around the corner. But like we said, a lot riding on the final Nirvana game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell exactly how you feel if you're the 7 seed versus the 8 seed in Group Ascend before you know who exactly is going to come out on top in Group Nirvana, right? Will NIP end up getting the win there, or will it be IG answering that and claiming that #1 seed? Hard to tell, but there is potential actually for multiple rematches in Knights Rivals, where we have EDG taking on NIP again, and IG taking on Thunder Talk again. If the season currently ended today, that is what the matchups would be. And as much as we have been hyping up IG and NIP, those matchups obviously went the Group Ascend way last time around. That's why they're in this group to begin with.
They did. But if there's anything to be learned about the last Knights Rivals, Grapes, it's really anyone's game. I mean, we got all of our predictions wrong on the talent team. I don't think there was a single person that got perfect predictions for Knights Rivals going into the Split 2 playoffs. So expect the unexpected, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. As we circle back here to BLG against Top Esports, Bilibili Gaming, obviously a lot to be excited about with Bin returning to the roster and then picking up their 4th straight win here in Group Ascend. Top Esports end up not picking up this win. They have to bounce back pretty quickly. They have a game against JDG tomorrow. Anything you're looking at specifically? I feel like Tian had a bit of a rough one, just like we were talking about at the top of the show.
I absolutely agree. I think that Tian had a pretty lackluster performance against Shun, but honestly, I feel like when you have games like this where it was really winnable for TES up until they made one mistake, you have to look at the source of that mistake. And I felt like Creme really, on just that one play where he overextended himself on the Aurora, basically vanished Top Esports' chances of being able to take that game. So for Creme, I'm really looking at him to be the difference maker. I think that Hongq has had a tumultuous split, to put it lightly, and Creme is going to have that stability, have that confidence to go forward against JDG and take that series against them to continue being a dominant top 3 team.
Here's some highlights from that opening game. Top Esports got off to such a nice advantage, right? They had this early lead into the Aurora, which is the counter matchup into the Annie. It felt like Creme had the upper hand on Knight for the entirety of the early game. But then BLG just were able to find that one fight, and I think you can either credit BLG for finding that moment. I think you can also put some blame for Top Esports for putting themselves in that position to begin with. Again, as you mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, the aggressive rocket belt forward, the aggressive jump forward from Creme just left him way too vulnerable, as we're about to see.
Yeah, the Creme carry potential was about as consistent as my camera quality currently is. I'm sorry to everyone who is currently getting an eyesore watching it just go like from good to like kind of okay to like really bad. I feel like that was something that Creme, that was kind of the trajectory that Creme frankly had in this game. Had a really solid start. A lot of the resources that Top Esports were dumping into the early game went on to that Aurora, and then he just makes one critical misplay, one positioning error, and then BLG take the game. And worse yet, I mean, Knight is the one that really steps up once that lead dissipated for TES. Those Tibbers ultimates, that damage coming through was absolutely massive. So Knight stepping up, Creme forced to step down, forced to kneel to the golden left hand, the king of the LPL, who has now locked himself in, along with the rest of his team, for first place. There was no surprise about it, but I do think the manner in which they got there was the biggest thing to be disputed, Graves.
Yeah, on their third top laner of the split. This time, it's Bin who ends up getting the win over TES. Remember, it was Wenbo against Top Esports. Last time they played, Zuian had a terrific series that resulted in them picking up the 2-0 in the opposite favor. And again, just a great game from Knight, especially in the late game. I think my player of the game goes to Bin, but the way Knight played some of these late team fights, I think he deserves the player of the series here. We'll see what exactly the votes end up coming in for.
I honestly wouldn't hate if they gave the MVP over to Knight. I do think he had a rougher early game, but I think he really bounced back in mid to late once Creme became a less relevant piece. He really started to take over. And, you know, I'm the biggest, like, don't give Knight the MVP person ever because he gets all the MVP. So when I say he should get the MVP, it's deserved.
I could definitely see that happening, and I think the player of the match very much going to go towards our defending MVP, our, I think, presumptive first team mid laner and presumptive best player in the LPL.
If it's anyone else, we will be having issues.
There it is. Knight on the Annie. Despite getting really punched down in the start of this matchup, ends up having really great team fights to put his team over the edge.
And there was a point in this game where I was a little bit worried Knight would have one of his rare stinker games, because I think that a lot of people think to split 2 when they think of Knight's dominance, but in split number 3, he has shown like levels of dominance, but I do think there have been some peppered in bad games from him. Like I think back to the Lissandra game. There have been a lot of matches where he simply overextends himself and gets caught out. And I think a lot of teams have been saying to themselves, okay, now that we don't have to deal with Bin, we can deal with Knight and just put all of our attention into the mid lane and making sure that he can't be relevant past the early game. And that has worked for some teams, but it doesn't seem like it worked out for Top Esports in game number 2 as Knight rose from the ashes and burned down all of TES.
Yep, threw Tibbers out there for a little bit of extra firepower as well. Crazy that both of our Top Esports versus BLG matchups end up only being 2 games. Very least we're guaranteed that the next time we see them face off against each other this year, it'll be more than that, as we will transition over to best of 5s, either at the playoffs or potentially at the World Championships if things go either side's way. Quax,